Hi, I'm new here. I've been having severe joint pain, which began last March. I think the initial trigger was stress. And, in our fibro support group, so many people are talking about their stress. I mean,
Yep.
it's rare that it's, oh, I'm relaxed and I've had this pain. It's not like, no, they're constantly triggered about different things, and their stress is through the roof and never stops. I think the initial trigger was stress, and that turned into grief when my mother passed away in May. And now December, my doctor put me on low dose LDN 2
Naltrexone.
months ago. I still need to take Aleve, Aleve,
Yeah,
every
it's pronounced
12
Aleve
hours,
here. Yeah.
Aleve, to function, because without it, the pain is very bad. I'm reading the GAPS book and No Grain, No Pain, and hoping to do whatever I can to help my body heal. Has anyone had positive results using a detox foot bath?
You know what's interesting, right? Like, people are pulling these individual things and are saying, is that going to save me? It's sort of like taking a car apart and like, okay, I'll take the carburetor, well, these days, the ignition system, and not ignition, injection. And I say, is that the most important thing? Or I'll take the front left wheel. Is that the most important thing? And then I go back to crank on the windshield or on the window. Or maybe it's an electric motor now. Is that the most important thing? Like, it's that little chase in people's heads of asking about this one thing. What is the one thing that makes the thing essential or required, right? And so with the automobile, you have some essential parts. Like, you need to have the wheels and the crankshaft and the, whatever it's called, the axe, the thing that transfers the movement from the motor to the axle to the wheels, right? And whatever. So there are some essential parts, and then there are some less essential parts, but they kind of are required for a comfortable experience, like the body of the car, the hood, the windshield, and the roof, and the seats, and stuff like that. They are not essential for it to move, but they are quite required for it to be a decent ride. So likewise with this stuff that we're asking. So she puts out no grain, no pain. All right. Yes, we know that high starch, which translate into high glucose diet, is problematic, because when you are burning at high intensity, you're going to cause fire damage. Let's call it that, right? Metabolic damage. Things that burn slowly are fats and proteins. First, the things that burn fast are carbohydrates. That's wheat, rice, corn, all that business. So that's obvious that when you eliminate the grains, all of them, you will have a positive impact on your metabolic health. So that's one of the points, right? Another point she mentioned was, well, grief begets stress, begets. Your body cannot tell something that is imagined or directly seen. Right? So if you're watching a tiger coming at you, or if you're visualizing a tiger coming at you, if you do it with enough intensity, it will be just as vivid and your body will have the same response. So whatever it is that you're doing to your body by focusing on the loss, right? Like, yes, I acknowledge that losing one's mother is a life-altering event. I mean, it was not fun for me either. I don't think it's fun for anybody. And so we need to somehow find a way of reframing the loss into something more positive, which I think would be focusing on all the gifts that we have received because of knowing the person. So that's part of the trauma, right? The trauma cluster. There was one other one that she mentioned. She thought that, okay, joint pain. Interestingly, Most people with joint pain are those who don't do well on nightshades. Nightshade plants are those that are potato, tomato, bell pepper, eggplant, ashwagandha is one of them, goji berry is another one, but the main ones in food, in quantity, right? Those are the ones that you should probably try and eliminate for 3 months and see how you do. What else comes to mind, Scott?
Well, one is keeping a food diary,
Yeah,
or a diary of a journal, right? Like, what am I eating?
yeah,
And
yeah,
sometimes the impacts of what I eat can last for a day. Sometimes it can last for a couple of weeks. So you kind of have to decide which ones you're going to do without for a long time. And
yeah,
as you were talking, I was kind of reminded that oftentimes the doctors will say, well, try this for 2 weeks, this drug for 2 weeks, and then we'll reevaluate it, which is pretty much the definition of an experiment. I don't know what this is going to do. I'm hoping that it helps. So take it and find out. And we need to start doing that with what we put in our mouth. Right?
food,
Like,
yes,
like, let's get rid of this and see what, and in our case, it's generally get rid of something and see what happens as opposed to trying something. But
yeah,
if we got rid of Doritos and we need to replace it with something, so I'm going to replace it with organic carrots and see what happens, right?
yeah,
And we don't do those experiments. It's kind of like, oh, I'm in pain. What do I can't, what do I do? Right? Give me a pill. And that's the easy way out, which ends up being, in the short term, possibly okay, but in the long term, we know it's going to cause more problems.
yeah.
So you
Yeah,
deal
in
with
that story, she mentions LDN, low dose naltrexone. Naltrexone is a toxic thing that's given to people, to drug addicts. However, in low dose, it keeps the immune system occupied just enough so it doesn't go after the things that it's currently going after. So let's just say that you have joint pain and you take LDN, and it will keep your immune system busy and the joint pain gets lesser. But that's just, I don't know.
We
what
keep
to call
saying
it.
you take your gum out of your mouth and you stick it over the engine light in your car, and now the engine light you can't see, so everything is fine until your engine stops working.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's one of those. There is no chance that you can fix a problem caused by toxicity by throwing in toxic chemicals. And yet, that's what's being proposed here. Yes, with
Right.
throwing in the toxic chemicals, you will move the perception because you're messing around with the endocrine system, with the metabolic system, with the autonomic nervous system, whatever. You're messing around with it, and you will tilt the plane in some way so that whatever was up will go down. However, there are fairly high costs to all of that long term. Like that Aleve that she mentioned, that side effect is liver and kidney damage. So how long do you want to put up with it?
Not good.
Right?
We see a lot of liver problems and a lot of kidney issues that people have.
Okay, so I should turn to a solution, right? The solution is not the one thing. I started with describing the car. You need to do all of it. And we are right back to toxicity, malnutrition, stagnation, and trauma. You could start with trauma. Go find yourself somebody who will help you with, I don't know, quantum healing or body talk or some such EFT, neuro-linguistic programming, some method other than talking therapy, other than psychotropic drugs. Or maybe those. Don't buy antidepressants. That's not the ticket. You need to deal with the cause for the need for that. So that's one. Stagnation, need movement, both small and large, right? So you need bowel movement, you need breathing, you need water and urination. All of those things need to flow. And you also need to exercise to move your lymphatic system.
You said something a few minutes ago, Martin, that I wanted to kind of emphasize, and that was around trauma and like emotional trauma and all this sort of thing. And it occurred to me that there's a lot of people that watch Netflix. Like, they come home from work, they just say they have some quick something to eat, they sit down in front of the couch and they turn on Netflix. And we don't think of that as traumatic experiences, but what you said is like every the mind, it takes things that are imaginary and turns them into, and the body doesn't know the difference. And if the body doesn't know the difference, and you're every night watching an hour of a horror show, or you're watching something that has intense emotions, or a crime thriller where people get shot, like people think, oh, I'm relaxing. Like, no, you're traumatizing yourself. So
Scott, I just want to share, just butt in with this. My daughter turned on a story. It was Tolkien's Lord of the Rings or something like that movie, right? I watched it for maybe 10 minutes and I said, this is stressing my adrenals too much. I'm out. Like, it had scenes in it and the drama of it, and it was intense, and said, no, I'm not buying. I'm out. And the movie is popular, and that's whatever. Well,
yeah, no, it's super popular. I love that movie. But when you think about like the scenes and people having their heads cut off and all these things, it's like, wow, like this is intense, and we're numb to the intenseness, which is why they always have to like outdo themselves. The Halloween horror movie version 10 is so much worse than version 1.
Yeah, the Chainsaw Massacre, I tell you.
Yeah.
But even still, like in the Lord of the Rings, they had the battle scene where all these different creatures, awesome, horrendous looking things coming at you. I don't know.
Yep.
I just thought, I'm out. I don't need to push that much cortisol into my system. Thank you.
Yeah. So, what are you watching on TV? Oh, I'm watching the news. Oh, so you're seeing things being blown up because there's wars, or, all this negative, you've got all this negative stuff. And then we minimize the impact of it. And then we wonder, like, why are we sick? Because our body is totally stressed out from all this stuff we're putting into it through our eyes and our ears, right?
Yeah. I heard a really curious one the other day, which was that most of the mass murderers, school shooters in the United States were all avid players of, what is it called? Single something operator shooter, playing video games that involve just stepping into a room and having a weapon and just eliminating targets. All of them were avid players. Now, I'm not saying that every avid player of this becomes a mass murderer, but it correlated with that.
And they're certainly desensitized to the idea of killing, right?
Yeah. So
that can't be good.
Right. And so I don't know, should I order the games off the market? I don't know. I'm for free speech, but I'm also for people exercising their free will intelligently.
Well, there's the word, intelligently, right? Like, you're playing these games, you're putting yourself right into the screen, shooting people. Do you, first of all, as a 13-year-old, do we know how that impacts their development? No. Everyone looks the other way. As a 25-year-old, do we know how that impacts their future? No, nobody checks any of that stuff. Right. So, and nobody sits down with parents and says, listen, 5 hours of shoot 'em up games a day is really unhealthy for your child. Nobody says that. Right? The parents are
people say that, but it's just not really right in front of us in a loud way.
Right. So it's not, no, you're not supposed to smoke because it's going to give you lung cancer. Everybody knows that, but nobody knows that if you play video games 10 hours a day, you're going to be socially inept and blah, 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 all this stuff, right? And maybe you'll be fine. Who knows? But what we know is that the constant stress that people are putting themselves under is causing their bodies to break down. fact that they are not getting they're not detoxing, the fact that they're not eating they're not eating real food adds to the, they're all parts of the problem, right? Like one of the things you keep saying is everyone wants this magic bullet. Well, they also want to know what caused it. Well, it's not a what, it's a whole bunch of what's that causes it.
Yeah. Yet the camel doesn't care one bit of what's in the bags that you're loading on him. And then the last bag, the last straw, and off it goes.